Well, welcome to Facebook Live with Lilly Lewin and myself. And I should mention, I'm Christine Sine, for those of you that don't know me. And I'm really delighted to be able to chat to Lilly about Advent this morning, particularly about Celtic Advent, or we could also call it Orthodox Advent because it starts the same, 40 days, starting 40 days before Christmas, rather than our traditional Western Advent, which starts 4 Sundays before Christmas. And both Lilly and I love to get this early start, and we'll talk more about that as we go along. And I wanted to start just by reading one of my Celtic prayers, which is part of what I do during these kind of extended weeks of Advent, is tend to get back to my prayers and use them again this series. Light of the universe, life of creation, lover of souls, bless to us this day of your creating. Bless it with our light that we might see you more clearly. Bless it with love that we might walk with you more closely. Bless it with caring that we might reach out to those in need. Light of the universe, life of creation, lover of souls. Bless to us this day of your inspiring. Bless it with faith that we might grow the seeds within. Bless it with trust that we might follow where you lead. Bless it with life that we might nurture what you plant. Bless to us this day of your abiding. Holy One, Sacred Three, bless this day with your presence. Amen.
Amen. That's good.
Pray for God's blessing. So as we begin this discussion. So Lilly, let me ask you, what do you enjoy most about celebrating Celtic Advent?
Well, I was going to say we should tell people that when it starts, so people know that. So the 15th of November is when Celtic Advent begins, and technically it begins evening of or sundown on the 14th. I've always started on the 15th. I like it because well, I read something this morning about, well, you know, all the glitter and commercialism of Christmas starts so early that this gives us a chance to okay, we're going to make this about connecting and preparing our hearts for the coming of Jesus rather than just all the commercial stuff of the world. So it gives us 6 weeks rather than 4 weeks to prepare. So that's why I've always liked it, that it's that you kind of get a head start on, and it slows, for me, I think it slows down. We have to get ready so fast. It gives you kind of baby steps into the season. So that's why I like it. I also like, Christine, I did not know until today. Okay, I'm this many years old. I don't know if you've seen that on Instagram. I'm this many years old and found out that Celtic Advent is actually the original Advent that in Gaul. So in the 300s, Celtic Advent began. The Celts were in Gaul and they began the process and in the 300s. So learn something new every day is my motto.
Well, and of course it is, you know, the Orthodox, as I mentioned, it's not just the Celts, but the Orthodox Church also does this 40 days of preparation. And I think, you know, we do 40 days before Easter. How did we kind of truncate the preparation for during Advent, you know, for Christmas? It just seems strange. And I, like you, I love that we can spread out the 6 weeks, that we can really get focused before the consumerism really ramps up. In fact, I love David Cole, who has a Celtic Advent is his book. And he says, as we begin this journey of Advent, start by setting your heart in the right direction. And I love that. You know, I think that the invitation of Celtic Advent for me is not just to try and take time before the consumerism ramps up, but to really set my heart in the right direction in terms of this journey towards Christmas. And I've just enjoyed this morning rereading the different posts I've done about Celtic Advent and reminding myself that next week I have got to get my Celtic contemplative garden together for Advent.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, I was thinking the same thing. I didn't get to Michael's, I usually like to do something different, a little bit different than the traditional Advent wreath, at least in the first couple of weeks.
Me too.
Especially because we have, you know, in the States, we have Thanksgiving in the middle of this. So I usually do something that's kind of dark green candles sometimes. But I do 6 since we have an extra 2 weeks, and kind of put leaves around it. And then I take that away and put in, you know, more of the greenery. I've never gotten into the traditional, I guess because I didn't grow up with the purple and the pink candles, which is the tradition. I've never gone that route. I've always gone to, you know, more either all white or different color, but I've never done the traditional purple and the pink candle. That's just not what I grew up with. But then when I worked at the Episcopal Church, that was the traditional colors. So I learned about them, but that wasn't.
Well, I think you like me. Earlier this year, somebody told me that I was a liturgical rebel, and I think you're the same. Liturgical rebels. Here we are.
There we go.
And I think it's a great way to describe us, because we love the liturgical seasons, but we're not always comfortable with the traditional ways of practicing these seasons. And I think that celebrating Celtic Advent is a good example of that, you know.
Right.
And part of what it does, and I think this is part of what we both enjoy too, is that it gives us a chance to be more creative in terms of the way that we express it. And I love the idea of using green candles rather than the traditional pink and purple. Now we do have a traditional Advent candle holder, which has a Celtic design on it, which is nice. But of course, it's not Celtic Advent. It's just the 4 months of Advent. And so we do set that up. We set that up usually on our dining room table. And then I do the things that I like to do for Celtic Advent here in my little corner. So I'll move things around so that my Celtic symbols are probably a little more evident, though they're pretty evident, most of them.
That's great.
And things like that. You know, I don't use candles quite as much as you, not real ones. I mean, I've got my remote operated candles here that I love, but I usually just light one real candle every morning, which is a great focus.
I think that's a beautiful practice. And in fact, last night I gave the Thin Place crew, that was their homework assignment for this week, was to light a candle every day, if they didn't normally, and pray for our country. And we have Canadians as well. So whatever country you were a part of, that we would pray for our countries every day this week. And I think that's a great practice anyway, but I thought that was a great practice since we had elections here yesterday. The other thing I was thinking of, how Celtic Advent gives us time to think about how do we want to focus our Advent? So, you know, for me, 2022 has gone so fast. I'm still in denial that it's November. so it's like, oh, it's November. And we've had really hot, seasonally warm, without rain in Tennessee, and it's supposed to get cold this weekend, but it's more felt like California instead of Tennessee. So it hasn't felt very fall-esque or, you know, moving toward the holidays. So it's kind of like I have to keep my, you know, we're getting to the season. So it's nice to have a marker to go, oh, okay, so I've got a few days to kind of get my head around, and even a couple of more, you know, weeks if you want to take the first 2 weeks of Celtic Advent and go, how do I want to focus my my season of Advent moving toward Christmas? And the fasting, you know, it used to be the tradition was it was the little fast, whereas Easter was the great fast, and Celtic Advent was, or the Orthodox Advent was another fast. And then when Protestantism came in, then the Roman Church, they both took out kind of the fasting part. But it made me think today of, you know, what could I fast? You know, what do I need to fast? And not necessarily, I'm not thinking food. I'm thinking more like whining and complaining, or less social media, you know, some things that, you know, that get in the way of my relationship with Jesus. So that's what I'm pondering.
Well, it's a hard balance at this, you know, and this might be part of the reason that the focus on fasting, particularly for Advent, went. I don't know whether it was the pressure of the consumer culture that which was so focused on feasting. And I actually soaked the fruit for my Christmas cake over the weekend.
Oh, fun. That's great.
And for a month, I mean, before I make the cake. But you know, because I'd love to do Christmas cooking. I like to have other people that can eat it, because I certainly shouldn't be eating all of the stuff that I make. But I do, you know, just really enjoy the festivities of the season.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
The decorating Christmas for me, we're talking about Advent, but Christmas decorations for me, the decorating process is it's better than presents to me. I would like the Christmas tree. That part is like, it's just my favorite part. Now I'm a more traditional person where I don't put the tree up until way after Thanksgiving, and usually not till December 1st, at least, if not later, just because I process it out, but then I keep it up till Epiphany. So that's kind of my tradition. And I was going to say that we have a wonderful devotion that we put together, Christine and her team, and I have some stuff in there too for that starts at Celtic Advent and goes all the way to Epiphany.
Let's talk about the resources, because that's an important part. And yeah, you're right. A couple of years ago, we put together this devotional, and because of our emphasis on Celtic Advent, we started at, goes from actually all the way through Celtic Advent, from November 15th, all the way through Christmas to Epiphany. And then last year, Lisa DeRosa put together this beautiful journal that goes with it, that has all kinds of, let me find one of the, not just places to write, but little poems and things, I think, that come out of the book, but exercises to do, and just a lovely, lovely journal to go along with the devotional. And it's just, I highly recommend it. I didn't have anything to do with this, so I can highly recommend it.
Well, I can highly recommend the other one, because it has lots of my posts from years past of Celtic Advent and Advent in general. But I just think it's a beautiful compilation of the authors that we have at God's Space Light from all over the world. So that's a beautiful.
Timeless. It's timeless, I think. Yeah, it is. I need to start looking at it again, actually. But
it's nice to have multiple things. Christine and I were talking before we started about the different things that we're using or going to use for Advent this year, and I'm still thinking about the different ones or a different way I want to do it. I know that the Advent word a day is one of my practices in some years, where you do a photo a day and there's a prompt of what the word is, and then you can write something if you want, but it's more about the picture, and they do a devotion for you if you want that. And I usually kind of
say that again.
It's Advent word a day.
Advent word a day.
Yes, yeah. And I'm going to put the link in the bottom after our time. But it's just a practice that I've done in years past, where Forward Movement puts it together. That's the part of the Episcopal Church, and they just give a word, and then they do have a devotion you can sign up for. But I just like the word to think about, what does that look like to me? And then you can see what everybody else does too. You can kind of sign up to see the other photographs from around the world, which is fun.
Yeah, that's a lovely. I've heard of it, but I certainly haven't done it. That's something. Now, of course, they start with traditional Advent.
Right. Yes, they do. The other one I like that new is, and I don't know if they start with Celtic Advent or not, but Art and Theology is doing an Advent and Christmas like photo of the day, like a painting of the day. So they're using art and telling the story that way. And I'll put the link to that one. But that was a new to me one that looks really interesting.
And we'll also make sure these get onto the resource lists on GodSpace.
Okay.
Because we really do want to keep expanding those lists, which is good. Well, and then the one I was mentioning to Lily, that I went looking for some new things to use for this year. And this book, I don't know if you can see, we've actually got...
Let All Creation Rejoice.
Yeah, Let All Creation Rejoice by Father Stavros Acrotyreniacus. Almost got it, I think. It, put out by his Greek Orthodox priest. And I think, kind of what I'm enjoying, and I am reading through that, is reading from a different tradition, a tradition that's not my own, and that, is refreshing and has some new things to say about this tremendous celebration as well. So really enjoying that.
That's fun.
I've looked at it. I haven't really started it yet, but yeah.
Well, the other ones I was going to recommend, I started early because I knew we were going to talk about this, also because I just needed to in my soul. But Richard Rohr has a little one for that. It really does start with regular Advent, but I've started for Celtic Advent, preparing for Christmas, which is daily devotions. And then the one that I used last year was my friend Scott Erickson's Honest Advent, which is a lot of his paintings and pictures, but also great devotion. And then the one I wrote about last week for Pre-Range Friday is my new friend Bonnie Smith Whitehouse, and it goes along with Christine's book on wonder, The Seasons of Wonder. And the fact I said in my Pre-Range Friday that she used the best Christmas pageant ever, that's one of my favorite books. We use it at Thin Place for our Christmas party, and I think it's a great parable for all of us. But that just made me like her more. And she gives really practical, this is for the whole year, not just for Advent, but things to do. And I think Christine's community likes that kind of thing as well as ours at Thin Place.
Very, very much love practical things to do. One of the things that I like to do each year, that we usually do within the community here, the small community here, is that we make Advent jars. And it can be as simple or as complex as you want it to be, which is a fun thing, and people enjoy it, and if we've got kids around, the kids get involved as well. And it's great to have things like that we can do, because I think there's something, when we do things with our hands, it kind of engages more of our brain than just reading something. And really I think that's part of what I enjoy about creating my contemplative gardens, is that it really gets more deeply into my soul. And I always feel it's very Celtic too, because, the Celts had such a wonderful connection to nature, but also a sense, they didn't necessarily worship in churches. They often worshipped in nature and things like that, that was very much a part of what they did.
Well, that would be an interesting practice for Advent too, especially depending on where any weather, is to take Advent walks, because you talk about walks of, taking wonder walks, but to actually go, what would it, I've been the word that I didn't even really think about the incarnation, the word incarnation. I remember when I first started at the Episcopal Church, this was like in 98, so long ago, but the word incarnation wasn't really a part of my theology. I don't think it was, I knew Jesus, Jesus was born and that he was the Son of God, but it was like a new word, new kind of, oh, what is that? What does that look like? And so thinking about, Jesus honoring our bodies, honoring humanity by coming as a human. And then that's a word, take a word maybe from one of your Advent devotions, or a word of the day, like that, and go walk around your neighborhood or walk around in nature and go, wow, how do I see Jesus in here? Or how am I inviting, welcoming Jesus' return in my community? I've just been pondering how you could do that more tangibly than just in your brain, thinking about are we present to those images. And one of the ones I've used in the incarnation prayer experience, the sacred space that I created, was using baby lotion. And I didn't find my jar of it or bottle of it this morning. I thought about it, and then I got distracted by dogs and other things. But that putting on baby lotion every day as a practice, because it reminds me of Jesus coming as a baby and the new life that brings. But it's a scent that you kind of can carry with you, that of Jesus' incarnation as a baby, and something that maybe that's not the one that touches you, or you don't like the smell of baby lotion, but something that kind of connects you back physically and touchable, tangible.
But one of the things that reminded me of is that the Celts celebrated Bridget of Kildare as the midwife to Mary, that somehow she jumped back through time to be the midwife at the birth of Christ, which I think is rather lovely. Again, trying to connect the story to who they were and what was going on in their world, which I think is beautiful. And I think we all need to do that in a way. I love the practice, and I can't remember whether I talk about it in this Advent book or in another one, where in some parts of France, they actually make little figures in villages of the different people in the village, and they put them around the manger, their little pottery clay figures, and they put them around the manger so that it makes it more personal. It says all of the people within our village are standing around the manger. All the people are involved in the story.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love that kind of a sense. I think it's beautiful. And and just one other resource, Brenda Warren Griffiths, one of the God-Space writers, she has on her website, and again, I'll put it in the comments, a series going through Celtic Advent of a different Celtic saint a day.
Ooh, I like that. That's great.
Yeah, Celts to the creche, she calls it.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. Which also reminds you, as you're talking about the different figures in the nativity, that one of my good friends, Sally Chambers, who's here in town, she one year, and this has been long, I think I've even used a picture of this in one of my God Space posts, but it was she had her creche on her hearth of her fireplace, and she had all these different kinds of figures, everything from Star Wars characters to the TARDIS from Doctor Who. She had all these different characters, Groot from Marvel, and they were all at the manger, coming into the manger. And it was like, yes, that Jesus came for everyone. And it made me think of that there's a tradition of having Mary and Joseph. So I grew up with a manger scene that didn't move. So it was a beautiful nativity scene, but the figures were kind of glued down. So we didn't get to play with them or move them around. So I didn't know you could. For a long time, I didn't know that was possible. Now they make kid versions of everything. And they have, we do one of the things we do as our party, our Christmas party at Thin Place, is we have the worst nativity scenes that are, we have a slideshow of all the horrible ones that are like bacon, food, it's just interesting. But to get your nativity scene, or make one if you don't have one, or find some old ones, and carry, have them around your house to start the journey, even starting at Celtic Advent. So we don't get, it doesn't all happen at one time, and that Mary and Joseph can travel to the stable, and instead of the elf on the shelf, you could have Mary and Joseph traveling to the manger, and then you've got the wise men coming at Epiphany. So you've got even more, each day they could move closer to the manger scene. And I didn't know that I could do that when I had little kids, and that would have been fun. So I'm recommending that to even people who don't have little kids. It could be fun to process and think of the journey that everybody went on as Jesus was getting born. So
lovely idea. I really like that too. It's nice to have these tangible things, and yes, moving the figures is a great idea, or having nativities. A friend has nativities literally from all over the world that she puts up in different parts of the house,
Cool.
And those things that kind of help draw us into the story of our world, I think are really important for us as well. And just, in fact, I almost forgot about this one, but one other Advent resource is that December 3rd, I am going to be doing an Advent quiet day. And, because of this fact that we really need these quiet pauses in the midst of all the hecticness. And one of my friends said to me, when he came to the one I did at St. Andrews last year, he said, I know I need these pauses, but he said, I'll never do it on my own. And I think that's true for most of us, so that's why I wanted to do this, and hopefully it's something that people will really find enjoyable. That and of course, the other resource we have for the Christmas season this year, hooray! I just got, this is just the proof copy. Unfortunately, they put that right across the front. They used to just put it inside, but this time they put it right across the front. But I'm really delighted with how this turned out. We've got photos to introduce each section. We've got, I counted 25 contributors from, I think, 7 or 8 different countries.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, isn't that great?
That would be a great Christmas present, as the cookbook.
Well, and we'll have up some, and it'll be available on Amazon by the end of the week. But we'll also have some bundles that are available through Godspace, including one bundle. Graham Kerr is going to be doing a special, really a launch for the cookbook next week with me next Thursday, a Facebook Live session. And we're going to have some copies of his book, The Gathering Place, which to me, it's my favorite of his cookbooks, partly because it has recipes from around the world, because it was based on a journey he and Trina did many years ago, but also stories that go with them. That's awesome. It's a beautiful cookbook. So it was part of the inspiration for this, because again, we don't just have recipes in here, but we have little stories. People contributed a little story for each of the recipes that they contributed, and some very inspiring stories.
That's awesome. Well, Andy Graham's
got nothing to do with Advent.
That's okay. I was thinking Graham Kerr was the first, like Julia Childs, was one of the first people who ever did a cooking show live on TV, or not cooked on television, that I remember watching. And then I got a chance to work with his son Andy on church staff when I worked at Eastside Foursquare in Kirkland long ago. So I love how full circle and how the world in Jesus gets smaller and smaller. It's fun.
Well, Tom met him back in the, I think, early 80s, and they've been good friends since then. And, he's older than Tom. I think he's 88. But just still as inspiring as ever.
That's wonderful.
And is on fire for God, which is also so beautiful, a real Jesus follower in so many ways. And, I think one of the things with All Saints Day is saying we need people that are examples for us, and people like Graham is an example, because he gave up, to a certain extent, but he gave up, some of his notoriety on his show to follow Jesus. He worked with Youth with a Mission for a number of years, and very humble guy in so many ways, and delightful guy. So I hope that people can join us again for that next week, which it's going to be on the Thursday, not the Wednesday, because Wednesday is his Sabbath from social media and things like that. So
that's cool. Does he still live on Camino Island?
No, he's at Warm Beach. Okay. Near Camino, Stanwood there.
Stanwood. All right. Well, so another fellow Camino Island person that you're going to talk to soon is our friend Jeff Johnson, who is a great musician who does Celtic many things, as takes people on pilgrimage, as well as does amazing music. And he has a new winter song album that's coming out on the 11th, I think. So you get to talk to him in person.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and his some of his Celtic music is still my absolute favorite.
Oh, me too. Me too.
Very contemplative and beautiful, and his Christmas music too. Has a Christmas album from way back that I still enjoy. One of my favorites I enjoy putting on. So,
well, and his new one, he's taken Brian Dunning, who was one of his partners in crime, who played the flute so amazingly, passed away recently. And so he's put a compilation of his Christmas music and things together for winter in honor of him. And I'm just so excited to hear it, and that you guys are going to talk on, is it on a Wednesday? Is it a Facebook Live?
Yes, it's a Wednesday. I think it's the 7th of December. Anyway, we'll have that up on the Facebook group.
But if you don't know his work, definitely check out Jeff Johnson in iTunes or in Arc Music.
Arcmusic.com is his website. Yeah, no, he is. I've kind of, I mean, this was Lily's suggestion, and unknowingly she gave up her next
That's okay.
slot.
That's all right. It's great. I love to share the great people that we know, and you've known Jeff for a long, long time. And I met Jeff many years ago through National Youth Workers Convention when he would do Compline, and, and he did many things for National Youth Workers Convention and Youth Specialties long ago. And that's how I got to know him and just appreciate his work. And like you, discovered him, my very first, like a prayer labyrinth that I did long, long ago, one of the first ones I ever did, I used part of a CD that he was on, not before I knew who he was, as a backdrop for that. So I really appreciate both his spoken, songs with words and his instrumental as well.
He often, on several occasions, did the music for our Celtic retreats up on Camino Island, where he lives.
Right.
And it was, I mean, he was superb. And he didn't just come in to do the music. He was very much a part of everything that was going on. As I said, humble, just like Graham, humble, delightful guy, a lovely guy.
And he does Selah worship services around the Northwest. So if you're in the Northwest, find out when the next one is, and go participate. I've participated in one of them, and it was gorgeous. So that might be something to look at through Advent to see where he's doing that.
Definitely. So anyway, we seem to have run out of time here. We kind of got a little bit distracted from Celtic Advent, though I think that the things we've talked about are all associated with that, because, part of it is, as we were saying, setting your heart in the right direction, and, kind of taking this as a focusing time for that journey towards the manger. And hopefully this can provide you with some resources to make that possible as well. So considering all the opportunities, this is a gift and an opportunity to go, oh, how do I want that journey to look? What does that feel like? What do I need to move around to make it so that I, by the 24th at the end of Advent, I feel like I'm ready for Jesus to be born again. So wonderful. Yeah. So remember, November 15th is the start of Advent for us, and a very special day. So not very far away. So look forward to it, and God bless everybody.
Thanks for being here, and thanks Christine for organizing things again, and I will look forward to the next one.
Amen.
Blessings.